my gosh, guys, I'm so lucky.
This is the funniest fake Minecraft speedrun ever, because the way this speedrunner tries to cheat is absolutely hilarious. So the speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a jungle temple. And while there's technically nothing fake about the spawn, the odds of spawning directly next to a jungle temple are 0.001%, so this is definitely something to look out for. Either way, the run begins with the speedrunner collecting some wood, crafting a few tools, and moving towards the jungle temple. There's just one slight issue. The blocks on this part of the jungle temple are made out of stone bricks, which is something that's literally impossible, as these blocks on a real jungle temple are supposed to be cobblestone. Well, when the runner enters the temple and is searching for some loot, they accidentally open their chat, which actually reveals that the speedrunner used some sort of command to spawn in the jungle temple himself. Which not only means his spawn was completely fake, but now it's obvious that while the runner was spawning in the structure, he clearly placed the wrong blocks on this part of the temple. So, after a bit more searching in the temple, they go to loot the jungle temple chest. And on the surface, it may appear as though all the items in this chest are completely normal. However, there's one single item that actually can't spawn in a jungle temple, which is this singular piece of bamboo. Remember this block for later in the run, as it will become extremely important. So, after looting the rest of the jungle temple, the runner then makes his way to a nearby village. But hold on, pause the footage. Did you just see how the runner cheated? Don't worry, I'll replay it for you and see if you can spot it this time. Well, if you pay very close attention to the runner's hotbar, he literally gains an iron ingot out of nowhere. And while one iron ingot may not seem like a big deal, don't worry. This singular item will become very important later in the run. Well, the runner enters the village, and after collecting some beds and gathering some hay, he goes to fight the iron golem. And there's one very suspicious aspect about this golem, and that's the fact that before the runner even touches it, it's somehow already taken damage. But how is that possible? The runner clearly hasn't attacked it a single time all speedrun. Well, if you rewind the footage and pause it right here, you'll actually see that this iron golem is taking damage out of thin air. Okay, is there a ghost on this world that's helping the runner cheat? Well, besides the golem already being a bit damaged, everything else is actually completely normal, as the runner kills it and collects 3 ingots, which he immediately uses to craft an iron pickaxe. But do you remember how I pointed out the runner collecting a suspicious extra ingot when entering the village? Well, that ingot is now incredibly important because he needs to use it to craft flint and steel, which leads me to believe the runner somehow knew he would need 1 extra ingot. Interesting. Well, after crafting an iron pickaxe and flint and steel, the runner's next order of business is searching for a ruins portal. And while he does locate one, something incredibly suspicious happens as he moves closer towards it. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? Well, I'll replay the clip in slow motion and see if you notice it this time. Well, it actually has nothing to do with the ruins portal itself, but instead, the item the runner is holding, because somehow, the runner's iron pickaxe that we literally just saw him craft turns into a diamond pickaxe. And not only am I incredibly confused on how that's possible, as all of the diamonds the runner has are clearly still in his inventory, but I think it's obvious the runner did this as the only way to remove crying obsidian is to mine it with a diamond pickaxe. But can someone explain how in the world the runner just did this? Well, the runner makes his way towards the ruins portal, and after looting the chest and removing this block of crying obsidian, he's able to complete the portal and make his way into the Nether. But as the runner is in the middle of teleporting, take a good look into the top right corner of the screen. A player somehow appears out of nowhere, and this is incredibly strange, because I didn't see any join messages in the chat, so how is it possible that a player just appeared? Remember him for later. So, the runner enters the Nether, and let's slow down a bit, as everything actually appears fairly normal. Survival mode, check. No potions in the top right corner, check. The spawn being real. Wait a second, let's replay the footage. As you can clearly see, this speedrunner initially spawns in a Nether wastes biome, but just one frame later, he's now suddenly in a warped forest biome at a completely different location. And this actually proves that the runner has made a cut in his recording, so when he manages to locate a fortress less than 15 seconds later, it's obvious that when the runner cut the footage, he went off camera, found another fortress, and built an entirely new Nether portal, pretending to spawn there the entire time. This cheating is hilarious. So, the runner quickly locates the fortress, but before things get too crazy, pause the footage at this frame, because if you look into the right side of the screen, you'll actually notice a 2x2 square of Blackstone on this wall. And it's more than obvious this is incredibly suspicious and not natural, so make sure to remember it as it will become incredibly important later in the speedrun. So, the runner enters the fortress, where I guess I can give him credit for getting the achievement, and he quickly locates the blaze spawner room. But is it just me? Or are there far more blazes than the amount that usually spawn here? Well, there might be a reason for this unusual amount of blazes. Because if you pause the footage at this frame, you can quite literally see a second blaze spawner that is somehow floating in the air. And this is obviously fake, but if you still weren't convinced, if we rewind the footage to about 20 seconds earlier, look into the right corner of the screen at this frame, where we can see the exact same player who we briefly saw in the overworld holding a spawner in his hands, meaning his friend has placed this extra blaze spawner for the runner so he could fight far more blazes and collect rods more quickly. So, with 2 blaze spawners at his disposal, he easily collects 7 blaze rods, where a normal speedrunner would then start searching for a bastion. And this speedrunner has the same idea, but after searching for quite a bit of time, he simply can't seem to locate one. Well, that's until this happens. What? The speedrunner literally starts breaking through the air, which somehow reveals a secret tunnel. Okay, hold on, we have to replay that. Am I seeing things? Look, the runner somehow manages to break the sky? What in the world is going on? Well, after somehow finding a secret tunnel, the runner of course heads through it. And just a minute later, when the runner reaches the end of the tunnel, he finds himself directly in front of a bastion. So, the runner somehow manages to locate a bastion when things are suspicious right away. Because just watch what happens. Did you see that? Despite the runner only mining this singular gold block, when he breaks it, 5 of them somehow drop right in front of him. And when he goes to mine his second gold block, another 5 drop from that one too. Which means the runner now has 10 gold blocks, which gives him nearly a stack and a half of gold ingots. Well, with more than enough gold ingots, the runner quickly heads towards a group of piglins and starts to trade with them. And no, nothing about these piglins are fake in the slightest, but there's something else about this part of the run that's absolutely hilarious. Because at the top portion of the screen, you can literally see the runner's friend building some sort of dropper contraption, while he isn't even using a potion of invisibility. And you can also clearly see his friend place a button on it and starts dispensing a bunch of overpowered items for the runner. Okay, hold on. Did his friend think he was out of frame and we couldn't see him literally cheating in 4K? Well, with some help from his friend who needs to work on being more undercover, the runner easily collects all the items he needs and prepares to head into the overworld. But he then makes an incredibly strange decision, because despite having more than enough blocks of obsidian to build the portal, he instead decides to leave the bastion and seems to be looking for a very specific spot. This is getting interesting. Well, the runner continues to search until he travels all the way back to this location, where earlier in the speedrun, I pointed out this incredibly suspicious 2x2 square in the wall. And when the runner starts breaking a 2x2 pathway in this exact location, what? He eventually digs straight into the strongholds. Okay, first off, It's quite simply impossible to travel between dimensions without a nether portal, so how in the world did he just do that? But secondly, was his friend the one who built this 2x2 square here? As a way to remind him of where he needed to dig to somehow find the stronghold? I have so many questions right now. That was insane. So, after somehow making his way into the stronghold, things finally seem to cool off just a bit, because the runner loots a chest and locates the end portal room without an ounce of suspicious activity. But this is quite literally the last time in the speedrun that anything is normal, because when the runner goes to check the portal itself, are you kidding me? Instead of finding end portal frames, he literally finds Minecraft's most overpowered blocks with item frames. This has to be a joke, right? Well, the runner starts placing his eyes in every single item frame, and when he goes to place the final eye, oh my gosh. He actually manages to light the portal, which looks absolutely beautiful. At this point, this speedrun is obviously fake, but it's absolutely fascinating to watch. So, the runner jumps inside this magical looking end portal, and surprisingly, the end actually looks standard, as the runner spawns on an obsidian platform like usual, and he is also still in survival mode without any weird items in his inventory. But, do you remember near the very beginning of the speedrun, when the runner found this random piece of bamboo in the jungle temple? Well, the runner then says this.
Yo, because I have the piece of lucky bamboo, the end will now become insanely overpowered.
Okay, this guy has to be joking, right? There is no way a single piece of bamboo has any power. Oh my gosh. The end is quite literally made out of rainbow lucky blocks. And the pillars are also made out of the exact materials that the end's portal was made. This is the world's most overpowered piece of bamboo. Well, even though this end is absolutely mind-boggling, there's still one problem. Because without a bow and arrow or enough blocks to build up to the pillars, the runner has no way to break any of the crystals. Which means if he wants any shot of defeating the dragon, he needs an attack so powerful, he won't even need the crystals broken. Lucky for him, he happens to be in a world where everything is lucky block. And that's when the runner comes across this. Out of an entire dimension of rainbow lucky blocks, he finds one standard and classic yellow lucky block. And when he breaks it, he's literally given the world's biggest and most menacing looking sword ever. And despite every single crystal still being intact, the runner uses this weapon to one-shot the Ender Dragon. Click a video on screen now to watch even funnier fake Minecraft speedruns.